So, what happens when simple, straightforward honesty runs headfirst into some really clever, calculated greed? Today, we're going to break down a timeless story about a pretty devastating betrayal and, more importantly, the brilliant plan that was hatched to turn a thief's own greed right back against him.
We're all told from the time we're kids that honesty is the best policy. But let's be real. What happens when you follow all the rules, you work your tail off, and you still get betrayed? Well, this story dives right into that exact scenario, and believe me, it offers a pretty powerful answer. So, our story kicks off with a man named Bushin, and he's in a really tough spot. He's facing this absolutely devastating famine that has just sucked his village dry, leaving everyone desperate. With basically no other choice, he has to leave everything he's ever known behind and just go search for work. Anything to survive.
Okay, so that brings us to section 1, a humble beginning. Bushin shows up in a brand new village with nothing to his name except his own integrity. This is really the start of his long journey, from having nothing to building a real future. This slide, right here, it really sets the stage perfectly. On one side, you've got Bushan. His honesty is raw. It's born from pure necessity. And on the other side, you have the Zimidar, the local landlord, whose honesty is more of a public reputation, right? He's the guy everyone trusts. Both are seen as good, honest men. But as we're about to find out, these two kinds of honesty are about to be put to the ultimate test. So Bushin, he manages to land a job with a farmer named Jagat Safe. And let me tell you, this work is grueling. We're talking about caring for 100 animals, sleeping in the cowshed, and all for just 200 rupees a month. But you have to remember, for a man who has lost everything, this isn't just a job, it's a lifeline. It's his one chance to rebuild. And this right here, this is the promise he makes to his new boss. This single sentence, it's not just words. It defines his entire character, his whole work ethic. It's not just about getting paid. For Bushan, it's about earning that pay the right way. Which brings us to section 2, trust and treasure. So Bushan's promise, it wasn't just talk, it starts to pay off. And here's where we see how his hard work and integrity begin to build a whole new life for him, piece by piece. Just look at this timeline. It really shows the power of just compounding integrity. It's not one big lucky break. It's all these small, honest efforts adding up over time. You see the progression, right? His hard work improves the farm's output, and that earns him trust and a raise. That little bit of financial stability then lets him build his own home. And after 7 long years, all that diligence has turned into real, tangible savings. And it all comes down to this number, 5,800 rupees. Now, for you or me, that might not seem like a fortune. But for Bushan, this number represents 7 years of sweat, of integrity, of disciplined saving. It's his entire future, saved 1 rupee at a time. But you know how it goes. With success comes a whole new problem. The village starts having a wave of thefts, and Bushan suddenly realizes that his entire life savings, just sitting in his empty hut while he's at work all day, are incredibly vulnerable. And this crisis, this is what's going to change everything. And that brings us to section 3, a deceitful betrayal. In his search for a safe place for his money, Bushan puts his trust in the absolute wrong person, and it leads to a turn of events that is just devastating. So Bushan's worried. He confides in his boss, Jagat Seth, who, acting on the Zamindar's sterling reputation, gives what seems like perfectly sound advice. And trust your money to the landlord. Everyone says he's honest, and he has guards. On the surface, it sounds like the perfect solution. And this is where the Zamidar's public reputation becomes a weapon. Just look at these 4 classic scam tactics. He starts with denial, completely erasing Bushan's identity. Then he moves to this false bureaucracy, creating a hurdle that's impossible to clear. Next, he pulls the reverse accusation, a classic gaslighting move to make the victim look like the bad guy. And finally, when all else fails, pure intimidation. It's a complete system designed to crush someone powerless. So now we're at section 4, the Seth's clever plan. Bushan is completely devastated, but he turns back to his boss, Jagat Seth, who comes up with this absolutely ingenious idea. What if they could use the Zamindar's own greed as the bait for a trap? The logic here is just brilliant. Jagat Seth realizes, hey,
If the Zamandar's honesty can be bought for 5,800 rupees, then his greed can definitely be exploited for 50,000. It's not that the Zamindar doesn't have honesty, it's just that its honesty has a price.
So Jagat Seth sets the trap, and he plays right into the Zamindar's ego. He praises the landlord's famous honesty and gives him an even bigger test of character. And of course, the Zamindar, blinded by the sight of 50,000 rupees, is absolutely desperate to keep up his trustworthy act so he can get his hands on that much larger prize. Which brings us to our final section, number 5, Honesty's ultimate reward. The trap is now set, the final act is about to unfold, and justice is waiting in the wings.
The climax just unfolds with perfect timing. Look at this breakdown. The Zamindar sees Bhushan coming with Jagat Seth, and suddenly, miraculously, he remembers him and returns the 5,800 rupees. But why? His motivation is pure greed. He's performing honesty to get the bigger prize. But the second he returns that smaller sum, bam, the servant arrives, and the trip is suddenly canceled. The trap springs shut. Jagat Seth has literally forced the Zamindar to be honest and exposed his greed in the very same breath.
So what's the final score at the end of all this? Well, Bhushan gets his life savings back, every last rupee. Jagat Seth's money is perfectly safe. And the Zamindar, the guy who tried to steal from both the poor and the rich, he is left with absolutely nothing but his own shame. His greed cost him everything.
And we're going to end with this powerful lesson from Jagat Seth himself. It's such a timeless reminder that, yeah, dishonesty might look like a shortcut, but it's a path that ultimately leads you absolutely nowhere. Real value, real prosperity, it's built on something much stronger. So is honesty still the best policy? Well, in this story, honesty, combined with a very clever plan, proved to be unbeatable.